It has been some time. I took some time off of chess. You don't want to ever spend time doing too much time doing a certain thing. Um, I know I'm not supposed to be motivationally speaking here. I'm supposed to be talking about the game. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6. Sorry, D4. Typical Scotch. Played the Scotch many times. He opts for four knights Scotch. I accept. As white, you never want to really decline it, especially four knights. Like at this position, white cannot do any wrong, right? EX D4, Knight D4, Knight D4, Queen D4. At this point, I knew I was winning because not because of the eval bar, because you can't watch that during the game, obviously. But I knew I was winning because of the experience, and this is kind of like the point of this video. Experience plays a major factor in these games, right? Because you then understand as the games go on what opportunities are going to be open. So at this point, I knew no matter what he does, especially if he thrusts, which is what I thought he was going to do, and it is the second best engine recommended line. Not the best. The best is actually D6, which is way better because he then goes D5 and loses a pawn for free, right? And again, you see the time. These moves were made. Like all of this was what was expected to happen for my opponent. My opponent was expecting me to take there so he can play this check. And this is another part of the game where I knew for sure I was going to win. At this point here, I was about 60% sure of my chances. You can never be too sure, especially in an open, even if they make an opening blunder, which this was, right? At this point, oh wow, ED5 is actually better. I wouldn't have seen that. Anyways, but at this point, yeah, 1 point advantage, but it's only because I'm up a pawn, which I can lose in the next turn anyway if I don't play it right. So yeah, but at this point, I knew I was going to win because I knew his entire gameplay was going to hinge on this diagonal, right? And we're going to see how my bishop, once it gets activated, is actually much stronger than this bishop on this diagonal. This bishop is still strong, and you'll see later in the game why it is so strong and why this actually wasn't a bad move. Like when I seen him make this move, I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing, but he's still kind of misguided, right? And it's right here when I castle, when we castle respectively, right? And again, at this point, I knew this pawn is either going to promote, right? Now in the game, I was like, it's not going to promote. Like that's what I was initially thinking was that it's not going to promote. But what I could do with it is use this as an excuse to open up a file eventually, and you'll see that. But I want to talk about this bishop because this bishop here is very, very strong. You see, it has me pinned, right? So that's why I go H6 instead of F or H3 instead of F3. Because if you go H3, you obviously pin. You can't play. You can't take or anything. So right. So I play H3, Bishop F5, Bishop G5. And I really just wanted to get this rook off of the ring. I wanted to win, or not the ring, the file. I wanted to win the D file and be in sole possession of the D file, but he didn't. He wasn't going for that. And again, this is why I knew I was going to win this game. Still up a pawn. He hasn't won the pawn yet. I knew as long as I continued that trend, I should be fine. And reason being is because now he's too late to attack it. There's no way to win this pawn now. See, none of the computer lines. Now, well, some of them do end up getting into you winning it. Like this line right here. This is a weird line. You go E8, Bishop G3, back. Makes sense to avoid that. And this diagonal is also pretty strong. And this is actually the diagonal I ended up in later in the game, by the way. And then what? Black to move A5. This is a very strange line. Rook E1 again. Bishop C2. Oh, Bishop C2. That's a really? Okay. Trade. Oh no, it's the rook trade, and then you go like rook C1. Oh, giving up the d5. That's a very weird line. Yeah, I can see why it's only 0.8. Anyways, that's not what happened in the game. So I take the d file because I knew no matter what, if I can win this d file, the king is going to be in trouble. The reason why is if let's just say, now I know this line is going to suck. Was that what happened? No, this is what happened in the game. Yeah, this is what happened in the game. But let's just say we get to the position like here, and let's just say I go here, and now that's not a good move. I'm gonna just set it up for the sake of argument. So I go here, and he again like let's just say he goes a5 because of a misclick or whatever, and then we get takes, or no, not takes, but we get takes, and now this file is opened up. So now he doesn't want to push because again, as long as this file stays open, the king has no escape to the center of the board. And that's a major theme in chess is especially in end games. Once you got queens off the board, you have to think about this stuff. And this was early in the game. It was early in the game when we got queens off the board. So you have to think about this stuff. And it's gonna take a role in later in the game. And now this I also knew this was a blunder because like I said earlier, I said either my pawn is going to promote or oops, sorry. That was a major blunder. I didn't want to get into that yet. Or the file opens up. One of the two things is going to happen. The rook is supporting this pawn thrust. So this pawn can push as far as it can until, it's forcefully stopped. And now, again, do you see how cut off the king is? The king has this. This is the only legal move. Actually, no. I lied. This or this. But again, file's closed off. But my rook is supporting. He did not want to end up on the same file as my rook, even if there's a pawn being thrusted forward on the same file. Because once that pawn gets lost or whatever, it takes and it enters a different file. However it happens in the game will be lost. And at this point, this is pretty much winning. Again, this is a blunder because of d6. I can even take on c6, right? I even take on c6. And what's the bishop c6? So you have check. And now it's king b8. Yep, take on d8. Check. Right? King is here now. Again, this is only 1.8. This is not completely winning, but again, it's still up a pawn. Pawns are thrusting. I have made a lot more progress in my position than he has. But he goes for the completely game-ending blunder, rook e6. Rook e6 loses the game on the spot. He just didn't see the bishop, simply put. And, that's one thing about being a beginner or playing against beginners is that there's a lot of bishop blunders. There's a lot of times where they just don't see the diagonals. And it's happened with me, too. I've done it before, too. And the thing I love about this game is when I was playing it, I was actively thinking to myself, do not go e6. Do not go rook e6. Once I seen him try to take this e-file, and again, he copied me. I took the e-file first. I was like, I'm attacking this bishop. I want the e-file. Get the fuck out away from my pawn as well. Like, please. So, when I seen him take the e-file as well and then push d6, I was like, if he plays rook e6, the game is over. The game is completely, there's no way you can win this game. And you'll see how quickly the game ends. This game, I think, has I don't think this game gets past another 15 moves. It actually might. There's actually a fair bit of moves. And then again, he went for another. This was pretty much desperation mode because now, again, and that was another reason why. I was like, there's no way to get to your bishop in time. You have to move your bishop, but you can't move your bishop because I check you, and because you put your rook in the worst possible place you could have put in this position. Like literally, there's no other rook move that would have been worse than that. So he loses the bishop for free, and then he loses the other bishop for free. So now I'm up 11 points of material. This is very simple conversion, and I'm going to show you how, again, this d-file plays a major factor in the conversion of the game. And sometimes, again, when you're making moves, you might be like, well, don't you think it's better? Like, this rook seems way more active. It's one apiece. It's behind the this and that and the third. Yes, this rook is definitely more active, but the placement of this rook is not as powerful as the placement of this one. Not only because of the pawn, not only because of everything else about the position, but mainly because that this king, you see this king is very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. It can move up, but once I get to c5, which again is going to happen in this game because again it's about checkmating. That's what you want to do, or get as close as possible to it. When the king moves up, or even if it stays here, no matter what, it's pretty much shut off because it's not going to be able to beat me to c5. And even if it does, it's not going to stop c5. Like, let's just set it up. Takes. Let's just say he goes here. Oh, well, he can't even go here. He can't move. You see, he can't move. I forgot. Bishop, I've taken with the bishop, but well, let's just say I move back, right? Say I move back. We get some like intermediate ass moves. I guess he pushes another pawn, and I'm playing for this. He goes here. He's not beating c5. He's not beating me to c5. And once I get to c5, the king is completely finished. He's completely finished. These are the only legal moves for the king from the rest of the game, right? Unless he pushes, right? But even still, that's still problematic because I still have this pawn push that's coming down. So it's a matter of what progress you can make in the position to not just go towards promotion or like win material, so to speak, but to win the game, right? To force this king into a position that it's not comfortable in, because now the king is pretty much stuck to these two squares. The king is resigned to these two squares until it can win c5 somehow. But again, you can't win c5 easily, right? You go here, I can ignore it. Doesn't matter. Still, c5 is still a problem. And now, even if you do something like this, because you can't go forward, I can check. I can check with both rooks, by the way. And now you're back at a7. And so it's this thing of working to cut off the king while still working to win material. Because even like when it's an even game, these type of ideas, yeah, they're strong, but they're not nearly as potent as they are now that I've won the material and pretty much concealed the game. So let's get back to the line though. h5. Oh yeah, we get h5. He's trying to thrust. Understandable. You're down 11 points of material. What else can you do? I check, by the way, and this is what I'm talking about with this bishop. I told y'all this bishop. You see how I moved it back? Because this on this diagonal, it's not doing anything. Right? You might be like, well, it kind of is. But again, remember c5. Remember c5. c5 is going to block this by the diagonal anyway. The only diagonal that's going to have power in this game, in this position, as it currently stands, is this diagonal. This diagonal is going to be blocked for the rest of the game. This diagonal is going to be blocked for the rest of the game. This diagonal has potential to open up on the very next move, which it does. And it's a check. King has to move. And again, you see, king is slowly getting cut off. The king is already cut off from here and here. Meaning it only has here and here. And again, c5 is coming. c5 is coming. c5 is inevitable. I want y'all to understand that in this position, c5 is inevitable. And you might be like, why is that? Beyond this, right? Beyond this, it's also in combination with this. Because let's just say, right, I lose a pawn. I lose this pawn, right? I give up this pawn. For one, this position is even worse than what we actually get in the game. But, well, really, it's about the same. But again, remember, this is a wooden shield. This can become a wooden shield and completely shut the water off for the king. For let's just say, let's just set it up for argument. Let's say I get here, here, and he goes like fucking, I don't know. Let's just say he goes. Let's say he goes here. I go here. Let's say he does this. I do this. Right. Whatever. Right. This is already made in a few moves, but right. And then I go c5. Right. I can then go here. And then the water's completely cut off. That's what you want to do. You want to shut the king's water off. You don't want the king to feel like it can move anywhere, right? So I go rook e8, rook e8, pawn e8 promotion, and the game is pretty much wrapped up. And you see how beautifully the game looks now. Bishop sniping this diagonal. King can't go back, right? So again, once c5 happens, there is no escape for the king, because right now the king can do this, and then it can go like here, and then, you know, it's a little bit of breathing room. Once c5 happens, which after again, this is actually very similar to what the game ended up doing. Here, just clean it up just to make sure there's no, you know, winnable tactics, right? And maiden 3, right? Maiden 2. Now, I missed the maiden 1. There's actually multiple maiden 1s. Rook d7. Simple ladder checkmate, right? With the bishop, well, no, with the queen supporting this diagonal. Or you have queen. For one, you also have queen b8 defended by the bishop. And I believe the last one is, it was a light squared move, I want to say. It was a light squared move, but I could be wrong, actually. Oh, no, those are only maiden 2s. Oh, no, it's another maiden 1 after. Once I go c5, he goes here. This is maiden 1 via... Oh, no, it's the same pattern. Yeah, it's the same pattern. Queen b8 or rook d7. Those are only 2 ones. But what I ended up getting into was also just fine. Now I'm at c5, and this is the key to c5. I didn't play c5 to go queen c or b6. That was not my initial plan. My initial plan was just to make sure the king cannot get to b6 no matter what. Like, king b6 is not a move that can be made, because once king b6 is impossible. There is no d-file escape. There's barely, like, the 8th rank is going to get covered by one of the rook or the queen at some point. So there's no escape. There's clearly no escape. And you can see the e-valve is supporting it. So I go queen b6. And here, this is what I was talking about. The other checkmate is queen a6. This was also a maiden 1. Now at this point, there's 3 options, right? Still b8. You have what I played in the game, which is rook d8. Again, beautiful, because I had this rook on this file. This is the only other rook move I made with this rook. I went from a1 to d1, and then d1 to d8. Those are the only 2 moves I made. So yes, but the funny thing is that of all of these lines, you see how the one checkmate I play is not here, right? It's all queen moves. So right, queen a6, queen b8, of course, and then you also have, I believe, in this position. Do you have it? You do. You have queen c6. Oh yeah, I was talking about this earlier when I was evaluating it on my own. Yeah, you have queen c6 because of again, the bishop snipes, rook snipes, king can't go for it. That's actually a very beautiful checkmate pattern. I also like this. It's like a reverse lobster pincer, you know, and also the classic right triangle. Let me see if I can draw it. Classic right triangle. Shout out XQC. Can I even draw it? Is it gonna let me draw it? Classic right triangle. But yeah, so playing your games, man. When you're playing chess, be mindful of what moves, the legal moves that the king has, and also When you're confident in a winning idea, play the winning idea. Even if it's a losing idea, even if it turns out to be a losing idea, play the winning idea, because you'll then learn why either it was a winning idea or why it was a losing idea. Chess is about learning. You're not going to progress in this game if you don't make the mistakes and if you don't lean into the mistakes. You have to lean into these ideas. You know, I wasn't necessarily sure that when I went, what was really the winning move or idea? I didn't. Well, this idea. I didn't know for sure that this idea, with supporting your pawn thrust this early. This is early in the game. This is first 20 moves, and out of 39, so I was way off. It was actually way more than 15 moves. Well, way more, but you get the point, right? I didn't know for sure that this idea was winning, but again, it was winning because it is the third recommended engine line, and it's only about a 0.1 difference between the lines, by the way. So again, just play the winning ideas. Even if you're not confident in them, play the winning ideas, because you will be thoroughly surprised with the results, whether it be good or bad. You're going to learn something. You're going to understand the game slightly more, and eventually you'll reach your level. You'll reach your peak.